Hey everybody, Ryan with Ray's Latest here, and today we're going to be talking about some potential trades that I've seen along the rumor mill. We're also going to talk about Joey Gerber being traded to the New York Mets, as along with Stuart Fairchild getting DFA'd. So let's start it off with talking about Joey Gerber here. So the Rays trade Joey Gerber to the Mets today for just cash considerations, kind of like what we saw with Vladdy yesterday. I'm intrigued by the move. He only got to pitch in 2 games for the Rays as he was hurt most of last year. He had 2 appearances, 1 earned run, and 4 1/3 innings. So from the small sample size that we saw from him, I kind of like what I did see. I mean, only 1 earned and 4 1/3, such as about a 2.5 ERA. I think that's kind of it's a very very small sample size, especially in Major League Baseball and coming out of the pen where everything is kind of volatile based on whatever situation that you're coming into. So I I just didn't get to see enough from him, and I don't hate the move considering we need to get rid of spots on our 40 man to be able to sign some of these new guys that we're kind of targeting in free agency and or re-signing players that are currently on our 40 man. So he's 28, so he's kind of an older righty. Um, it's something that I didn't really see coming. I don't think a lot of people did see coming. It's kind of one of those moves where you kind of just see it and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I think I like the move personally. Get some more cash considering I don't know how much it is, and they usually don't come out with that until a little bit later, or maybe a player to be named later in the cash considerations thing. Sometimes they kind of mess around with things of that nature. So I'm kind of curious to see what we use that cash for. I think I know what they're going to use it for, and it's going to be to try to re-sign Fairbanks and Lau. So I don't hate the move from just a very small sample size that we did see from him. He was very promising, but you got to get him out as you can. So if it was a move that Neander was necessarily not thinking about maybe re-signing him later on, I don't hate it. Get something from him while you can before he maybe hits a slump. So I don't really mind it at all. He was, like they were saying, he was clearly on the chopping block, and it was kind of one of those guys that was kind of a fringe maybe to make the 40 man coming into camp. So I don't mind it. Get something from him while you can. But I was kind of intrigued on the Stuart Fairchild being DFA'd. We did just reinstate him from the 60-day IL, which you have to do. You can't have any people on the 60-day IL in the offseason. They had to be moved back to the 40-man roster. So it wasn't necessarily kind of a shocker. He was DFA'd by the Braves and picked up by the Rays in the last year, but he suffered a right oblique strain in July. He never really got to play. We didn't really see much out of him. So it's kind of one of those things where he's kind of like in a Gerber situation, or kind of like in a Cole Wilcox situation, where these guys are on the chopping block. They've kind of been there for a while, and it's one of those things where you got to get rid of them. And I don't necessarily hate the move. I think it had to happen, and I think, not saying for layman's terms to a better person, but I think that from a Rays perspective, I think that is the right move, and I think getting him out now, it was before kind of just not wasting a 40-man spot on him when you could in turn sign some free agents and maybe not hold on to him as long if you're kind of planning on getting rid of him either way. So I like the move. I think it was smart on Neander's part, and it's kind of gonna. I think I think he's preparing for something big here, kind of hopefully in the free agency aspect, but maybe in a trade aspect. So I've seen a lot of things on Lou Bob being a possible trade target for the Rays. He is on a $20 million club option that the White Sox did pick up yesterday. So I think from a White Sox perspective, you do have to pick that club option up, because in turn he is on another club option next season for the same amount. So you kind of get him for that $20 million over the next 2 years. But I also am curious to see if the White Sox are willing to trade him, which I really do think they are, because he's kind of just melting away over there. I mean, they're not doing anything with any one of their players. And I think they've been trying to tender him out for a while now, but I just think their asking price is way too high. And so I'm curious to see if the White Sox want to trade him and want to get a haul for him. I think they're going to have to eat some of his contract. And I say this because teams like the Rays have a really good farm system that the White Sox would be kind of interested in my opinion. And I think that they would be okay with eating maybe 5 to 6 million dollars of his contract in a trade. So, and the Rays would be a lot more intrigued in this from their perspective because the 20 million is way out of range for them. Because you got to think they're paying Diaz and hopefully Lau combined 23 million next season, which in a Rays from a Rays perspective is a lot of money. And I think that a $20 million contract straight up for a guy is just way out of our price range. And I don't think they should pay $20 million for a player, considering based the production that we're kind of getting out of our younger outfielders in Simpson and Mangum. I think that Lubob could be plugged in and be a good right fielder for us, or even a DH. If we put Yandy, but that'd be a Yandy or a Aranda kind of mix around there. So he would have to play the outfield if he's going to be an everyday player, because Aranda's back from injured list. Diaz is going to be in the lineup every single day, but Caminero is also an everyday third baseman, so you can't really have Yandy over there either. And then Yandy's not playing short or second base over Lau or Carson Williams. Or Taylor Walls for that matter. So I'm curious to see, because if a Lubob signing does happen or a trade does happen, I do think we would have to get rid of one of our outfielders. And I preferably would prefer Josh Lowe to be in that package deal, because I really want to keep on to Mangum and Simpson. But I think that's also one of those things where I don't know if the White Sox will let you hold on to one of those guys. So I'm curious to see if they prefer a prospect package haul or if they're going to need a big leaguer in there as well. So I think just from a perspective of if Lubob was signed or traded to the Rays, we'd be looking at kind of a lineup of Simpson and left, or Simpson Mangum left center, kind of tandem, whichever one Cash wants to go with there, which I kind of really want to see Simpson play center field. I just think he's really kind of far behind from a defensive standpoint, but I think that he's coming along well. And then Lubob in right field with Aranda at first, Lau at second, Williams or Walls, whichever, at short, Caminero at third. So I think that's a lineup that I would love to see rolled out on an everyday basis. I mean, that's a pretty stacked lineup, in my opinion. I just don't know how much it's going to end up costing. And it's not like Lubob's kind of been productive either for being $20 million a year. I mean, he hit 223 last year. He had 400 ABs, had 14 homers and 53 RBIs. Granted, the RBIs number is probably a little down considering that he did play for the White Sox and they're not necessarily the best offense in the league by any means. So I'm kind of curious to see if that maybe lowers his price point a little bit. I don't think it will, considering that they did pick up his club option today. So I would like to see maybe a stab in the dark, maybe possibly to get him, but I'm not for the $20 million a year. They would have to eat at least $5 million of his contract, in my opinion. But I think if you do get him, that's a stacked lineup. And I think that he would be able to perform better, especially with the other guys around him being on base more consistently than a White Sox perspective. So I'm curious to see if that's maybe a potential target for Neander here in the coming weeks. I would love to see maybe some talks, but I just really, if we were to go out and get him, it would have to be for that 15 million, around that range, a little less. Plus, I'd prefer a prospect haul over maybe giving away one of our big league outfielders such as Simpson or Mangum, which I think Mangum would be more on that kind of yes over Simpson, I think. So I'm curious to see what Neander does with that, and if he does go through with it, I would really, really love to have Robert Jr. on the team, I think he would be fantastic. But you guys let me know what you think. If you think that Lou Bob should be a trade target for us, or let me know also any other potential free agent signings that you would like to see. Maybe any other trade targets you would like to see from Neander and company. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.